What is up, Fantasyland? It wouldn't be a proper show with my man Dan without some tech issues to kick it off. Appreciate you guys joining in. We are already 6 rounds into this draft. We'll get you caught up. We've got some big news today. We've got some stuff to discuss, things that happened in the last few days in the NFL. And we've got, of course, a draft on our favorite site, the FFPC, the $300,000 Best Ball Tournament that's going right now for $125 buy-in. Dan and I pulled the 9 spot because that's what I do. 9 and 8 are basically where I live this off season. So today is no different. Hopefully you guys can hear us okay. If you're in the chat, let me know if you can hear us, if there's any issues. Again, apologies for being late. Had a bit of a tech issue, but we should be good now. Harry Snowman, I see your comments there. Appreciate you, brother. Looks like you're tied up, but you're going to watch this later on. All right, Dan. How you doing, brother?
All right. I am doing great. Excited to be back on and drafting with you. That's always a fun time for me. And this is going to be a great time. We've already got a good start on our draft, and let's see where we go from here.
Yeah, it's funny because coming into this, and you know how it works, right? You have like an idea of how you're drafting your teams at different times of the offseason. I do anyways. And for best ball redraft, I don't hate going early running back. Best ball, I'm usually pissing yellow, as we say. So I kind of don't mind that we were kind of juggling a bunch of things with trying to get this tech issue figured out. You were making some of the picks and then went RB heavy. Talk to me a bit about that. I know we have a pick coming up. The good thing is these are 60-second clocks. Is that something you're doing these days, going heavy RB? Is it just the way you saw this board starting off?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the start here with 3 running backs and 3 receivers?
Yeah, I don't normally go 3 running backs this early, but I kind of felt like we had a good shot for McCaffrey there, which we took. I was kind of hoping that one of the next 6 picks that fell after McCaffrey would fall to us, but none of them did. For me, Achane was pretty clearly the next best one. And so we went that way, and then again we came around. Chase Brown, I felt like was clearly the best pick. So, sometimes the room just gives you that. You gotta go with it. We're on the clock right here, though. Who are we thinking, JD? I mean, Baker Mayfield definitely a possibility, especially given the Mike Evans. Don't hate going Bo Nix either. Pearsall, Jacoby Myers, also very interesting. I probably like Pearsall a little better. What do you think?
So I was actually thinking Pearsall just because we started with the 3 running backs.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do receive for a couple reasons. One, we started running back. 2, I find there's a pretty sweet pocket in quarterback right now in the back in the double-digit rounds. I find like the 0 RB this year is going to be the 0 QB. There's like a gap there. Once I pull up my Fantasy Mojo, shout out to Fantasy Mojo. Make sure you guys are signed up. But if I'm looking at the last 5 days here for the BBT, and I'm looking at the quarterbacks that go, let's say from round, I'd say like 10, 9, 10, and then going into like round 13, even 14. If you can get 2 or 3 of those, I feel like there's a nice collection of upside. I don't want to name guys that aren't off the board already. That's kind of the tough thing with drafting these live drafts, but there's a bunch of guys. I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about. We'll get to them as we go through this draft, and we'll come back and talk about our start once we do finish the draft. But where are you on quarterback this year? Are you liking this kind of mid-range with Bo Nix, Mayfield? I know you for the stack, it's definitely worth looking at. But what are your thoughts on the late quarterback, or are you kind of mixing it up this offseason?
I do like late quarterback quite a bit. I feel like there are strong options available, and you can, by getting 3 of them, you can really overcome, like a Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, because you've been able to put in an extra, running back, wide receiver, tight end, whatever. So I don't mind, especially in best ball, where I don't have to guess which week which quarterback is going off. I don't mind having three guys I really like late. Here, normally I'm not doing like the Mayfield and Nick Scott picks, but here with the stacks, I think it makes a little bit more sense to potentially grab one of them, because I do think they are strong quarterbacks in and of themselves.
So I was thinking we would probably get our pick on the way back. If not,
Yep.
if maybe one falls to us, but again, we still have our pick of the litter. Justin Fields just keeps going earlier and earlier. I know he was one of our favorites, starting off in the offseason up until the last few weeks, I would say, but I feel like he just keeps climbing up these draft boards. Now he's all the way up to round 7. What are your thoughts here? Do you prefer Mayfield or Knicks with what we have so far?
I'm thinking Knicks is probably a lot of fun here. We can probably do some additional, we can work off of that a little bit. Mayfield, it's going to be a little bit tougher to do more stacking with, but Knicks is fun.
All right, let's do it. I did a main over the weekend, and we did take Bo Nix as our QB1. He does offer that upside with obviously his legs. Obviously, as a rookie, just crushed last year in that Peyton offense, and they're adding weapons for him this year. So you got to think that he's able to build off of that. Any worries with like the CJ Stroud sophomore slump coming off of a high rookie season with Bo Nix?
Not really, not in the Sean Payton offense. I mean, I think that, with Stroud, the offensive coordinator Slowick, kind of was playing above his head a little bit as far as his play design, and once teams started catching up to him, he just didn't have an off-speed pitch there to kind of cross up the defenses with, and so I felt like that offense was kind of poorly designed. I don't think Sean Payton is going to let that happen with his offense. He's shown an ability to continue to adjust to whatever defenses are doing. So I'm pretty confident in Nix. He was a guy that I was very high on even last year before the season started, and he once he got through his first few games, he really started proving that he could do exactly what I thought he could do.
Yeah, agreed. And like you said, I think between him and Mayfield, you just get a few more options on the way down the draft as we get later into the draft board. If you're not already, guys, on the FFPC, help support the channel. Use DR Baller as your promo code when you first sign up with your first deposit. You will get $25 off. So this entry will be $100 for you as opposed to the 125. If you get into a $35 best ball, which they have going on right now for 100 grand, and that will cost you $10 with the promo. So make sure you use the code DR Baller. Again, appreciate you guys tuning in. We were a little late coming on board with the usual tech issues. We'll get that all ironed out. Unfortunately, Dan and I just didn't get a chance to jump on prior to get this all tested out, but we'll have it all ironed out. We do have some big news. Make sure you stay with us as we get later into the draft. We'll discuss that. Dan, you're just coming back from a pretty sweet trip. I know I had a nice 2.5 weeks in the Portuguese islands on family vacay in São Miguel, which is where my father-in-law's from. And then we crossed over to Madeira, which is another Portuguese island that's closer to Africa. And just some amazing sights, peaks, mountains, pool time, beach time, all that fun stuff. Strongly recommended if you're into hiking and just seeing really cool new things. Dan, you were in a different part of the world. How was your vacay?
Yeah, so mine was what I would call it a Frankenstein vacation, because we kind of smashed two trips together and made it work. My wife and I were in France for about 10 days. We went there to meet my daughter, this was kind of her graduation trip, and she needed some vacation time first, so she graduated a couple years ago. we were finally able to get the trip together. So we went to France and spent some time in Paris. My wife and I spent some time in Normandy before our daughter joined us, and then we were down in the Dijon and Lyon areas, doing a little wine tasting and just enjoying the scenery. And then we went back up on the trains, went through the Channel up to London, and met some college friends there. And from London, we went north to York and to Scotland and spent basically 2 weeks up in England and Scotland. And man, the scenery is just amazing. And also, they do have pretty good scotch there too. So I may have sampled a little bit of that.
May have had a couple samples. Were you in France when the PSG win happened? When PSG won the Champions League? I don't know if you were aware of that, but Paris Saint-Germain, they were in the finals for the Champions League.
Oh no, we did not see that. So
okay, you probably weren't there when it happened because it was huge. Like it was, I was in Portugal and it was pretty crazy over there.
Yeah, I can imagine. No, I missed that. I think that probably happened after we left France while we were up in Scotland.
Okay.
But honestly, I just wasn't watching a whole lot of the news.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. Same. And that's the nice thing when you go away is, especially we're doing content, we're, doing a million things. It's nice to unplug while you're away. I kind of monitored my stocks and my trades and stuff but fantasy wise, I had a slow draft going just to kind of stay in touch with draft boards while I was gone. I had an FFPC slow draft going. Then I was kind of, checking in just to make my picks and see how the board was going. Otherwise, I just totally unplugged from fantasy for the 2.5 weeks, which was nice.
Yep, same. I had a couple of rookie drafts that were just sort of wrapping up as we were out there in France, and once those things got wrapped up, then it was that was it for me. Just spending time with family and good friends and enjoying.
Nice. Well, welcome back. Right now we're coming back on the clock. I don't want to, the two guys before us already have a quarterback, so I don't know that that's even in their queue right now, but the guy at the top of our queue is still there. Would you double tap here to kind of maybe do a two QB build? Or you kind of just?
I think that's one of those things where one of the teams behind us has a quarterback also, so we're taking a little bit of a chance. But I'm we could try swinging him around.
Yeah.
I do think that we might. There's a tight end here we might want to grab. So I think it's probably tight end, quarterback. Probably makes the most sense. I could see, there's another running back and another couple running backs and a wide receiver. I don't mind here at all, but I'm also fine waiting a little bit. I'd probably go wide receiver again before I went running back.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're good at running back. Usually if I start heavy, like a robust running back build like this, I'll usually wait and just add some depth pieces because we're basically leaning on those three guys thinking they're going to, roll pretty hard through the season. So We're on the clock now. I think I agree with you with waiting to see if he makes it on the way back. I would probably go receiver here. I don't even hate. There's a guy we don't have there, but because of who we took in 7, I don't even hate adding this guy that I just added to the queue because they would maybe complement each other. I'm curious to ask you about the tight end that you added just because I feel it's a little early unless I'm totally missing something, but it also leads us to our thumbnail topic.
Right. Now let's go ahead and do the receiver. I got
the one I had?
Yeah, I just took it.
Okay, so let's start with that. This is a strategy that I'll incorporate once in a while. You had a name for it where, later on in drafts, you would take a couple receivers from the same team, maybe if there was like some uncertainty at the position or something, where you would get a couple guys and hope that between the two they would even out to, let's say, a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. We're doing it a little earlier here. I love the San Fran offense this year, and I like I'm not a big Ayuk guy normally, but if I grab Pearsall or Juwan Jennings, I don't mind adding him in a best ball where they can kind of play off of each other, maybe ping pong week to week. Especially once Ayuk gets back.
Right. Yeah. And, and quarterbacks in general have been dropping in this draft. Nobody has been too eager to take quarterbacks. And this, by taking Ayuk there, that also opened us up to another quarterback that we could take and be doing some stacking with. So
Totally. Yeah, totally.
yeah,
That's actually a great point.
yeah,
Now, I'll wait on the thumbnail topic just because we're still kind of we still haven't seen anyone go off the board that is affected, I guess you could say.
hmm
Um, Now, curious, this is when we were kind of juggling, trying to figure out the tech issues with Sutton. Uh, Harry Snowman postponed a business meeting just to watch this, Dan. So I'm glad we figured it out and managed to get on. So Baker's gone. Baker would have been good again for our stack, but because he's gone, are we looking at quarterback again here, or what are we thinking?
I
Or not
think
quarterback.
quarterbacks are
Sorry,
going
I
to.
meant receiver.
Yeah,
Apologies.
I think quarterbacks are going to start moving. I'm fine pushing tight end. I can live in the dumpster on tight end any draft, so I have no problem with that. I do see a couple running backs that are potentials here as well, but I mean, I think if we get a quarterback here, that kind of takes the pressure off that position. That allows us to be, take a little bit more tight ends later on if we need to, since we're kind of dumpster diving at the position already.
So should we add Purdy here?
Yep,
All right,
doing it.
beauty. So
There we go.
Purdy, again, we just talked about that San Fran offense. He just signed a huge contract. Pearsall and Ayuk should be a big part of that offense when they're on the field. So just locking up, like you said, we can see a big run of quarterbacks here. And I think us taking Purdy here will just increase the momentum at that position. So I like the play here. We're good at tight end or at running back. I know Sean Green. Guys, welcome to the chat, guys. Appreciate you guys watching. Apologies, we're a little late. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got a lot coming this off season. Dan and I, fresh off of our family vacays, are just hungry and ready to go. So with the start, we've got 3 running backs so far. We've got 5 receivers in Evans, Sutton, Waddle, Pearsall, Ayuk, and then we've got our 2 quarterbacks in Nix and Purdy, who give us some pretty good stacks. And we've got our boy Dio is in the room. Thanks for joining,
Nice.
brother. Funny, I've been listening to you guys since I've been back on vacay, just trying to get catch up on the 1st and 15th. So if you guys are watching and you're not already watching that goodness, make sure you're checking them out. Always talking high stakes between Abib, Dio, and Chris over there on their channel.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a great show. Must listen or watch, depending on which uh, which way I need to go. Sometimes I'm just listening. Most of the time, I take my podcast audio, and I don't have time to sit there and watch the YouTube, but they're a good one to watch too.
It's funny. I was way heavy on the podcasts platforms, I would say, till a few months ago. And the more I get into YouTube, even in the car, I'll play it through YouTube, through my system, through my Android Auto. I find like it's rare that I actually go into my Spotify and look for podcasts now that most of my favorite shows are on YouTube as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a matter of whether I can pay attention to the video or not as to which way I go. So, because I got most of the favorites all set up on my Spotify, so it's kind of just easy for me to go uh, download it there or, stream it.
So we're 10 rounds through, Dan. I do have a quick trade that I wanted to run by you. It literally
All
just
right.
came into my inbox earlier. It's in an FFPC. I think it's my $77 buy-in dynasty. It's one of my oldest leagues. I know Eric the Shiva's in there. Um, Charlie Mack and a couple other guys like Bixie, I think his name is. Guys that you guys have seen in the FFPC streets. But the only reason I keep it is because it's like my oldest Dino league on the FFPC. But I found this trade interesting. It was Ladd McConkey for Trey Harris and a 2026 first. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that one.
So you'd be getting McConkey? Or
I'm not part of the deal. I
Oh,
just
okay.
yeah, I just saw the trade and I thought it was an interesting trade. I mean,
Oh,
I know obviously the rebuild versus competitor, it plays into that, but what are your thoughts on the value on each side, and is that a trade you'd make if you were sending McConkey? I guess is more the question.
I would not send McConkey for that. I would rather just have McConkey personally.
Agree. Yeah, that's
So,
kind of how I felt about it. That's why I was that's why
yep. I
I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, that first could definitely turn into something good, but Trey Harris, I can't see him ever developing into a frontline player like McConkey. So now you're really counting on that first to come through for you, and who knows if it's going to be an early first, late first. It's just a little bit of a crapshoot. So if I've got a good team, I, those are chances I don't need to take. I'm gonna stick with my guy.
Dan, I got to take this B out. I got a huge hornet in here, so maybe talk the board a bit. And he's right at a spot
Yes.
where I can get him now. Hold on.
All right, go do it. Get that get that B.
Either,
Holy
either
cow.
that or he's
Yeah.
gonna sting the crap out of me.
Right. Exactly. You don't need that. So yeah. So we've got a team that's actually got four tight ends already. Kelsey, Johnny Smith, Tucker Kraft, and Dallas Goddard. They only have one wide receiver, which is Tyreek Hill. So a very interesting strategy by Team Five. We'll see how that works out for him. I do get that wide receivers. You can grab a few guys late and hopefully patch something together. But he's putting a lot on that tight end room, I think, to help kind of fill his flexes, which maybe it works out for him. But I would rather have more wide receivers than that. Other than that, yeah, we're looking at tight end. We're still only 18 tight ends deep in round 11, despite the one guy taking four of them. So, and basically the back end of the board is very light on tight end. So I think a few tight ends are probably going to be going off here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting in that range where and that's again, it's kind of the strategy. Like, are you going early tight end? Are you going late tight end? Are you going in the middle? I feel like if I don't get a value on some of those top guys, like Kittle is one of my favorite guys, but it's one of those where when you start drafting in January and February, Dan, you have your favorite guys and you get them at really nice prices. And as we get farther into the offseason, more information is shared. And a lot of these guys that you were maybe taking earlier, it gets harder to take them because now you're seeing them so much more expensive. And Kittle is another guy. We talked about who were we talking about earlier that was really moving? Oh, Justin Fields has been moving up a lot the draft boards, and Kittle's another guy. Every time I turn on a show, or he comes up really often. And for me, I always said
Yeah.
he's kind of part of that first tier for me. Oh, we're on the clock. What's our time
Yes.
wise? Oh, who do you
I,
want
I
here?
think we got to go Firemouth here. I think that's a good
All right,
place
take him and
for
we
tight
could
ends.
talk about him. Yeah, take him and we can talk about him. Because I'm
Yep.
curious to get your thoughts on him. He's not someone I've been drafting. I know Aaron Rodgers is now officially a Steeler, and that's why we have him on the thumbnail, so we can discuss that situation. So maybe talk about Fryermuth, and then maybe talk about Rodgers and how you think he affects that offense. I mean, other than Fryermuth and DK Metcalf, is it because you're looking at kind of a narrow target tree now in Pittsburgh with the lack of weapons, or do you think that Evans will
Yeah,
just kind
that's pretty
of
much.
lean onto Fryermuth?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much exactly it. There's not a lot of weapons past DK Metcalf. Everybody is unproven, I guess, is what I would say. and they're going to need somebody to cover the short areas of the field, move the chains, all that kind of stuff. And it's going to be the tight ends, or it's going to be Roman Wilson. Maybe Roman Wilson can do it, but even now you're just not really hearing any sort of a real steady drumbeat on, hey, Roman Wilson is, he was injured last year and this year he's going to take the world by storm. I'm just not seeing that. So I think Freiermuth has got just and they wouldn't be trying to trade for Jonnu Smith either if they weren't looking for weapons in the middle of the field. So, maybe something's going to happen here, but I think Freiermuth is a real steady guy. He's just sort of that guy I think we can get, decent points out of every week, a good place to start the tight end position, and then we can search for upside elsewhere.
Yeah, Freiermuth, a bit of a kind of bounce back last season. He was the tight end 12, so made it into the tight end 1, quote unquote, in 2022, and then last year he in 2023 was the tight end 27 when you're looking at fantasy points per game. Came back to a 9.9 fantasy points per game, finishing at tight end 13, so like a high end tight end 2. If you're looking for a committee, they are bringing back Rodgers. You got to think that he can build off of that. Like you said, even if they bring in Jonnu or someone else, Freiermuth has to be part of that. I threw in a couple tight ends that I like in this range. I don't know if you have a favorite out of the two, or if there's someone else you're thinking.
I probably prefer the second one.
Yeah.
I'd also throw Garendo in there as a possibility.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, I'm fine waiting on tight end and going Garendo, or we can add our second tight end now. Like
Let's
to me,
let's get Garendo here. I kind of like that. With McCaffrey, there is, I don't normally like handcuffing in best ball, but I think this is a decent cuff, and we're already stacking this offense. So
okay. So yeah, same. I don't usually handcuff. I also don't draft a lot of McCaffrey. So you're looking at a 12 round difference between our RB1, the first player we took off the board. This is best ball. Grendel looked really good as a rookie last year. We are stacking the San Francisco 49ers, so it plays really well in that situation. Brenton Strange goes off the board next. He's a guy that I'd thrown in the queue there that I really like this year. I like their schedule. I like where he's going. He hasn't moved up too much considering he's the only, real threat at the tight end position in Jacksonville. So he's good value. I have a lot of him. Garendo is one of my most owned running backs. Because maybe I'm not super high with CMC, and the injuries and the age do worry me, even though he's coming off kind of a slow season off of injuries. I really, really liked what I saw from Garendo, and I do think he's still going to be part of this offense, whether CMC is on or off the field.
Yep, totally agree. And he's got so much speed too. So he's a really fun name. When we're looking at later round running backs, I like looking at running backs who can break big plays because if they don't get that front line job, then what we're really counting on for them to ever enter our lineup is being able to break off some big plays. So I like guys like that. So.
And Sean points out also one of the easiest schedules this year, the 49ers, and a late bye. So I know when Snowman and I drafted our main, we took the San Fran defense. That was one of the reasons. The schedule and the late bye is always nice with the kickers and defense, so you don't have to worry about spending some of that early season waiver money on them.
Right, exactly. And Dale was asking about bye weeks on our best ball approach. I mean, I don't really worry about it too much other than just making sure that I'm not getting myself in trouble on any particular week. Like, week 14, week 12, those are the weeks that are likely to give us the most problem based on who we've drafted so far. But, I don't see that we're into a real problem area. It's just things that I would prefer to avoid. If we can get players that have different bye weeks than those 2 weeks, I would call that the tiebreaker right here. But I wouldn't necessarily stop from taking a player I thought was a real value just because of the bye week.
Agreed. You want to make sure you've got enough starters playing, in all the weeks, obviously. And if you start accumulating too many of one week, like right now we've got 12 and 14, like you mentioned, so maybe it's a tiebreaker. But as long as we have other players, we're not necessarily worried about not taking any more players at that position. It gets to a point where you might have to kind of track that if you're really leaning into a specific weeks. But right now, I don't think with what we've got five week 14 with San Fran and the San Fran players, and then week 12 with our Miami Denver players is kind of like it's noted. We got to keep track of it. We got to make sure we're not spreading ourselves too thin during those bye weeks. But I don't think we have anything to worry right now.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then, you know, one pick I want to highlight. We came around round 5. I took Sutton. I felt like
That's exactly I was gonna ask you about that because of Pickens.
yeah.
Is that where you're
So
going?
well, actually, it's more Travis Hunter was probably the player that I would
Or
consider
Hunter.
instead. But I
Or Hunter. Yeah. I was
yeah,
looking at
but I
Pickens or Hunter there.
yeah, I think both of those guys have huge boom potential. And you want to have those boom weeks. But we've got a very good player right next to us in Team 10, and for his build, I think those picks work out perfectly. For our build, I think they might have been a little bit tough. We needed to get some guys who are going to have both a floor and a ceiling with Evans and Sutton. And with Waddle there, we were able to get, I think, access to some of those same potential boom weeks because you know what? If Tyreek Hill is toast, Waddle is way too cheap at wide receiver 32. And even if he's not toast, I mean, wide receiver 32 is a great price for Jalen Waddle. We've never been able to get him in anything like a price like this before. He has been productive in the past. Last year wasn't his best year, but these are the bets we want to be making. So it came back around. I was hoping Pickens or Hunter would drop to us, but I felt like getting Sutton there.
Nope. We got to freeze, Dan. You're on freeze mode. But yeah, no, that's a very valid point with regards to the Sutton pick there. Because when we were on the clock, I was looking at Pickens and even Travis Hunter, but because he's our wide receiver too, in Sutton, I think that's where you want to maybe get more of a floor in there, and he's more of a wide receiver one on his offense versus like Pickens and Hunter maybe not being the first target in their offense. And like you said, Dan, more of a boomer bust with regards to Pickens and Hunter, which we were able to get in Waddle on the way back. So it's a structure thing. I think in a vacuum, Pickens and Hunter are way more fun than Sutton. But as a wide receiver two with our build, I think Sutton was definitely the way to go there.
Right, and we're up here.
So we could again bring in a tight end. There are a couple options there. If we want to keep pushing it, let me see what you've got in the box there. Take a guy. Take
All right.
whoever you want. Yeah, just
Okay.
because we were running out of time. So talk about Dobbins. Is there news that I missed? Is there something that you're hoping happens with
No,
regards to Dobbins?
no, there's no news there, but I feel like he really, showed that he's still a quality running back. He's available this late. So this is just kind of I think whenever Dobbins signs, unless he ends up signing again with the Chargers, I think Dobbins is going to pop up, at least 3 or 4 rounds, maybe more, depending on where he signs. What if he goes to Chicago? It just kind of there are just some places where it feels like there's another shoe that's going to drop in the running back room, and Dobbins is one of the last shoes left to drop. So I feel like he could get dropped in someplace interesting. So when you're at running back 50, this is a place where I don't mind speculating on that at all. Um, and I think we can. Then I think we can probably look at more like wide receiver or tight end coming back because there are some more options that I like there. the quarterbacks are really disappearing in a hurry, but I'm okay even if we just go Nix and Purdy and, we don't take another quarterback or maybe take just a real late hero ball guy. But I think we're okay at quarterback, so I think that gives us freedom to do whatever we need to do. And I'm very disappointed that Mason Taylor went. That was definitely a pick I would have
Yeah.
liked to have made just there.
So I like one or two here in our queue. I mean, just because of where we're at with the tight ends, that's probably the smart pick is that first one, but number two is a nice add to this build as well.
Yeah, I think we'll probably just go ahead and go with number one there.
Yeah.
Um,
Gesicki's like my fallback when I don't go early tight end. I just find like, yeah, he's the third option, but that offense we know is going to throw the ball. Their defense is not great at all. There's going to be some high scoring games. They just locked them up for the next 3 seasons. So I do think he's a nice fallback. I do like the Mason Taylor upside that he brings, and you got to think that he becomes part of that offense early in his career in his rookie season. But yeah, I don't mind getting Gesicki here as a late tight end too.
yeah, Mason Taylor works out really nice because of the fact that there's just there's Garrett Wilson and not a whole lot else.
Nothing.
You've
Brees
got
Hall. That's it.
Yeah, and Alan Lazard, but you've got to have somebody who's going to be working again underneath, and I think Mason Taylor is probably one of the best bets for that. They certainly drafted him early enough. We've seen tight ends over the past few years. Used to be you just didn't draft rookie tight ends ever, and obviously now that's changed. I mean, nobody's calling him a Sam Laporta or Brock Bowers here, but Mason Taylor at tight end 23. That's a kind of pick that you like to make.
Yeah, and I think even though you don't necessarily think their ceiling is at like a Laporta Bowers situation, those guys have opened up the possibility of these rookies hitting early, right? And from what we've seen there. So as much as you're not expecting every tight end to come in, I mean, these guys are getting more and more athletic. They're coming in and becoming prominent part of their offenses a lot sooner. I know McShay was talking about getting Ferguson on that roster for Stafford, and saying that means they want to get him on the field early because let's face it, Stafford's not there for the next 4 or 5 years at this point of his career. So I think this year the tight ends, there's a lot of upside with these young guys coming in, and a lot of the situations they fell in are actually nice ones, especially in New York, like you said, with 1.5 targets, I guess, there for Fields as he comes into that situation. Maybe they add a vet or someone in that offense to help out to help the Justin Fields in his first season in New York. But I think Taylor's a guy that especially in rookie drafts this year, I drafted him quite a bit in tight end premium, and he's a nice upside play in these best ball tourneys.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So, there's another something else I was going to ask you about. It'll come back to me. So far in this build, we've got two quarterbacks, Dan, after, what are we at? Round 15 here. We're just starting round 15. So after 14, we've got Bo Nix, Brock Purdy. We've got CMC, A-Chain, Chase Brown, Garendo, Dobbins. And then at receiver, we've got Evans, Sutton, Waddle, Pearsall, Ayuk, and then Freiermuth, Gesicki. That was what I was going to add just with regards to Dobbins. I know Rob and I, when we were doing our main draft on Sunday night, we were drafting right next to Dave Hubbard, and he took Chubb. And I remember thinking he either knows something or there must be some kind of whispers happening. And then, of course, I wake up, when was it? Either this morning or yesterday morning, whenever the Chubb news, I think it was yesterday, with regards to him going to possibly signing with Houston. So I think there's still some vets out there, not only at running back. I don't want to name players that haven't been taken yet because I don't think he's been taken yet, who I'm thinking about. There are vets that are still out there that can be really relevant this year and even be maybe close to low league winners that are going super cheap right now because they're not necessarily on an NFL roster.
Right, exactly. And I put I
Yeah,
kind
I
of
like that first
reorganized the
guy.
I kind of reorganized the queue so
Let me
I don't know if
refresh
your
it.
queue is showing the quarterback as the second guy
Yeah,
in the queue.
That's what I had, and the rookie was first, and then yep,
Yep.
I see that, and I like so the guy was talking about you put in the queue.
Okay.
I
So
like all four of those guys.
yeah, and I think one of the first two is the way we should go. And I kind of like taking the quarterback here. I think that's an interesting speculative pick. Um, you know, they put a lot of draft capital into him, so I don't think he's done yet.
Yeah, I don't hate it. We can definitely add him as a QB3. I think the upside is pretty huge. In Richardson is obviously when it's like stocks, Dan. When the news is all gloom and everybody's looking at Daniel Jones as the the QB for the Colts this season. I think Richardson still has a lot of upside. And when you look at kind of wins and losses, even just looking at like when the Colts had Richardson last year and he was all right, they were competitive in pretty much all those games. He won them a few games. You got to think he comes back improved throwing the ball, and maybe it's wishful thinking, but I do think when you're looking at the 15th round as a QB3 in a one QB build, even if he gives you a few spike weeks, I think that holds his value right there as a 15 round pick,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
or
Uh,
validates his value. I guess is more what I'm trying to say. So we could come back here and take either one of those three. I like. We are how many running backs do we have right now? Two,
we have
four,
five right now.
five.
If we, yeah,
Two, four, five.
I kind of
Yeah,
figured Deep Ten was going to take that running back because that fit his build just too well. So I think it comes down to on the wide receivers whether the second one will make it back around to us.
I've been
Either
taking
one of them.
that. Yeah, I've been taking that second one quite a bit lately.
Okay.
I really like his value right now. I think with our build, we don't have that many receivers. Like we've got five and we've got two on the same team.
Yep.
So I think we can go either way. I would probably lean the second one, but if you think even a chance he falls back and we can get both, I don't mind taking the first one either.
Now let's just go ahead and lock it in. I like
Okay.
Keenan Allen right here. I think this is a
Yeah.
good structural pick. And this is another player that like Dobbins when when he signs somewhere and I feel strongly he's going to sign somewhere because he hasn't made any noise about retiring or anything like that. I think he's just kind of waiting to see who the contenders are going to be, where his best chance to get both a lot of playing time and a chance to go deep into the postseason is what he's looking for. I would guess at this point, Keenan Allen's probably a little bit less focused on, maximizing his dollars. I think if he was focused on that, he'd already be signed somewhere.
100%. And that's who I was referring to earlier in Allen. I think structurally, like you said, he's once he does sign and when he does get on the field, he's going to be part of the offense. We saw him do better than my expectations, anyways, in Chicago last year. He kind of pushed Rome to the side, even in that offense, as much as he had the draft capital and the talent. So I think Allen still has a lot to offer. He's not necessarily a receiver that's living off of his speed per se, but he's going to be put in a role where he's going to produce, especially in PPR. And I think because we're not necessarily super deep at receiver right now, I think taking Allen is a really nice add, similar to what we did with Dobbins. Like we're really leaning on those early guys at the position, but if Allen can come in and Dobbins can come in and fill in those bye weeks and even become prominent parts of an offense, then they fit into these builds really nicely as opposed to just taking a home run swing on a someone like Pat Bryant, who was the other guy that we were considering, and he just went off the board a few picks later.
Yep. And I'm totally fine with missing out on Bryant despite the stack potential. Again, just because of the way our wide receiver core is shaping up, I think Keenan Allen might be a little bit more useful for us because it may take Bryant a good chunk of the year to kind of find his place. Sean Payton's not necessarily going to just give Bryant the nod right over Devon Vele, who's been looking pretty good. Troy Franklin. You still got Marvin Mims there. There's a lot of different mouths to feed in that offense. I think they're all they're going to get mixed and matched. And Keenan Allen, wherever he goes, he's not going to be in a small role like Bryant is likely to be in. He's likely to be in a much larger role.
It's funny. Just going back to you mentioned was it Team Five where they started with Tyreek Hill and then just didn't touch a receiver until 14, and you're just looking at kind of what even if he just smashes yellow for the rest of the draft, I think it's going to be hard for him to fill those receiver positions with high enough scores to compete. I know he's leaning on his tight ends for those flex spots, the way he's built that roster, but with Hollywood, Besh, and Palmer, I just don't know that he's recouped the position enough to make up for that Tyreek Hill, solo run, I guess you could call it, anchor receiver build, I guess you could call it.
Right, exactly. And, obviously you want to draft as if you're going to be right. So, rather than playing it too safe. So he's betting big on Tyreek Hill, but I mean, Tyreek Hill is basically the linchpin of his entire team. If Tyreek Hill isn't, a top 15 wide receiver, that team is going to struggle a lot.
Agreed. And we'll take a look. We're only going to 20 rounds, guys, so we're already in 17 at round 17 right now.
Yep. And I'm not disappointed that Daniel Jones went off the board. To me, Richardson is not going to be a guy I'm going to handcuff when he's my quarterback 3, just because of the fact that, again, you want to draft as if you're going to be right. And, to a certain extent, I just don't love taking Daniel Jones unless it's one of those situations where I'm really stuck for a quarterback 3, then I might take him. But otherwise, I'm going to leave him because you know what? We've gotten a pretty good look at Daniel Jones. We know what he is. I think the Colts know what he is. I mean, to me, I either want to bet on Richardson going out there and finally winning the job, because if they're playing Daniel Jones, they're admitting they gave up on their first round draft pick, which just it's not a good look for the Colts. I don't think they really want to play Daniel Jones that much. So I just like betting on Richardson, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
He's a home run swing type of play right now with the way he's going in these drafts. The only way I might consider Daniel Jones coming back, let's say in this round, if he was still available, is if we didn't have a second quarterback yet. And maybe we just took one quarterback and we're trying to fill that QB2 spot, then I might consider it, but not necessarily looking to handcuff him like you talked about. So we're back on the clock, Dan, 50 seconds. I see some, talking about home run swings with regards to some young tight ends in the queue there. I like either one of those, to be honest. I'm trying to see if one fits. I like the first one better, but I know that you like the second one a lot. So I'm good with either one.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good with the first one. We'll just go ahead and take him. I think and Terrence Ferguson plays on a good offense. We're taking a little bit of a chance that he's going to be the tight end 1 there. That may or may not prove to be the case, but it's worth trying again. And we'll see. We got a bunch of different ways we can go now because we're down to round 18. So the board is all open to us.
Yeah.
We could still even take another quarterback if we wanted to. I don't really think that's super necessary. So I'd be more likely to go with a a running back or wide receiver or tight end coming up here.
So I added a couple of names in the queue there. I don't love the second one in the queue. just structurally and strategically for this, for a tournament like this. If it was like a 12-man league, I might
Hmm.
want to go that direction, and we could say who that is once he goes off the board, or if we do end up going in
I
that
I
direction.
don't. That's a pick I really don't want to make either. But I'm thinking that if the first guy goes, it might make sense just to kind of lock in um, at that position. But like I say, I don't really want to go that way. Um, but I have a strong feeling that Team 10 might take the guy that I'm hoping will fall to us.
Well, Team 10 might even take our number two, or Team 11. Sorry, I meant.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
That is
But yeah,
definitely
like you
possible.
said, the way we've built this roster, I mean, we don't have a need per se. We've got three picks here where we can go anyway, whatever players we find will kind of give us the most upside at this point, I think.
Yes,
Um, so Dart goes off. See, like I like that Justin
there we go.
Fields, Stafford, and Dart. So I think it's
So
number one here.
number one is a smash.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Fan in here. He gives us another upside play at tight end because we waited till the 11th round to take our first tight end. We got Fryermuth, we got Gasecki, who are not necessarily huge ceiling plays per se, but they should give us production on a weekly basis. And then we double tap on some high ceiling, big swing rookie tight ends there with Ferguson and Fannin.
Right. Yeah, and Cleveland definitely needs juice on offense. And Njoku is in the last year of his contract. There have been trade rumors going around about Njoku. Those were mostly earlier in the offseason, but sometimes those earlier rumors, don't necessarily come to fruition until later. But Njoku is a guy I could see even getting moved in season before the trade deadline if they really like what they got going with Fannin. So I think right now they're just kind of sitting and seeing what they've got. But I like Fannin as that high upside juice maker, and he's a guy that they can he's a little bit of a joker for that offense to steal a Denver term. And they can use him in a variety of ways. So, he's just a really, really athletic player. And again, I like having those athletes on our team.
I think if Flacco does kind of solidify that starting job, this could be a pretty fun offense, fantasy wise, because
It
they've
could,
got
yeah,
Tillman coming back. They've got Judy, who showed, that he's still got some juice, and he's kind of grew into that offense on the back end of last year, especially with Tillman out. And then they've got Njoku. They brought in the rookie running backs. They still have Jerome Ford. I mean, not that he's necessarily going to be that relevant, but they do have some pretty decent pieces in Cleveland. I don't know what their defense should still be decent.
oh yeah,
Um, I mean, apart from being in a tough division, we should see some fireworks if, like I said, if they can get Flacco to lock up that position or to play a big chunk of that the season.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So we're coming into the last two rounds, Dan. The last two picks. We still have an announcement to make. We'll finish off the draft just before we get into that. Again, appreciate you guys joining us. Apologies for the delayed start. We were just trying to fix some audio issues. But make sure you're subscribed to the channel, guys. Any of those small little things like pressing the like button, subscribing, dropping a comment. Let us know if you like a pick that we made or don't like a pick, or you like our build, or you like any other build in the draft. All that really helps the channel. So we appreciate any of that. And make sure you use the code DRBaller if you're not already on the FFPC. This is where we're drafting today. This is a $300,000 tournament for first. You've got a $125 buy-in for the BBT, the Best Ball Tournament, and they always have the $35 buy-in as well if maybe you want to get into a smaller buy-in but still have a chance at six digits up top with their $100,000 prize. And that's at myffpc.com. And we appreciate their support of the channel. We appreciate you guys joining us today, especially in the chat. You guys are crushing it. Tom, appreciate you joining us. Rob, Deo, who else do we have in here? I saw Sean in here. And Best Ball on Call is always in the house. Make sure you guys check him out on YouTube. And of course, Dan, always love having you. And I'm pretty excited about what we have to announce here in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Alec Pierce just went. I was hoping he would make it back to us. That was one you put in the queue, and I thought was a really nice fit with
Yes.
Anthony Richardson. So we'll
He's just a
disappoint.
nice best ball play. He's just a nice best ball play, especially if you're stacking him.
Right. And then the guy who I've got at the top of the queue, you know, some might call him a handcuff. I wouldn't. I would say he's maybe slated for a different role in the offense than the player we already have.
What's up, Cullen and Joe? Appreciate you guys joining as well. And yeah, I like that first. Whether he's in handcuff or not, Dan, just he offers upside. We took a guy, a lot earlier in the draft, let's say. So this is so far later in the draft, and I see a suggestion from Deo. I don't know if you see it, and you added him. The number six spot. I really like that as well as
Yes.
kind of a stackable high upside play. I just find like where he's going right now is free. And if you think about where this guy was going last year relative to other players at his positions, other rookies at his position that did pop last year, I think that he's kind of forgotten this year. And yeah, I guess I'll wait to see who we pick, and then we can kind of get some names. Kind of speaking
Yeah.
code here with just doing a live draft.
I like taking number one to finish off that position, and then I
Agreed.
think
We have a lot of
with
options at the other position, anyways.
right.
I like all three of those options that you threw in there. So I'm good taking Ollie Gordon here. He does offer that rookie upside. Who knows how they insert him into the offense? If he's a, I mean, if he acts as a handcuff, that's great. I think for our build, because like I said, we took A Chain as our second pick in the draft. But I think he also offers standalone value as well, not knowing how this offense plays out. And like we said, if someone like Tyreek Hill doesn't necessarily come back or is not necessarily up to par, they're going to have to look for other alternatives in this offense, and especially if a guy like Jono moves.
Yeah. And, you know, Ollie Gordon was a player I really liked pre-draft. I was a little disappointed with, how he fell in the NFL draft. But, you know, he went to a good team. He's a guy who can definitely be a short yardage guy. And he's got the skills to do other things. I mean, he can catch the ball. He's not as fast as, Achan or Jalen Wright. And I think Jalen Wright is more the true handcuff to Achan, and I think Gordon might be able to carve out a little bit of his own role. But also Jalen Wright didn't play super well last year, so there's a possibility that Gordon could just leapfrog him. So don't mind that at all, and it still leaves us set up. One of our targets went off. Jalen Royals went off the board at the end of the 19th round there, but I'm okay with either of the other two guys that we have in there at that position.
Tom says not fun drafting next to JD and Dan. I'm wondering if he's Matrix.
I think he must be
Yeah.
or no, not Matrix. Matrix is Hubbard.
Oh, is he
It's got to
really?
be. Yeah,
Okay. See, I
that's
didn't know that. Okay,
yeah.
because
That's
he.
that's why I knew I had some suspicions as to what he was going to do,
I see.
and that's why his build works so well. I mean, Hubbard put together a very very good team over there at the 10 hole. All right,
He
so I think it comes down to we want to decide between Adonai Mitchell and Roman Wilson.
yeah.
I kind of, Roman Wilson is a guy who could earn a big role. Adonai Mitchell is a guy who's got the draft capital. They surely want to see something out of him in Indianapolis. I can go either way. Do you have a strong preference between these guys?
So I've been taking a lot more Mitchell because, like I said, I just find that his price here in the basement is really cheap. But like you said, Roman Wilson now bumps up with what his opportunity is.
Yep,
And if
and
I'm looking,
NWI would be the other possibility. All right, who do you want? 3 seconds.
Let's go Adonai.
Okay, good. That's who I clicked.
Just for the stack, like just for the stack, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because we do, and then you always know that you were making a good decision. Rob, we're kind of joking around because 3 times during our main event draft, we were at the last second at the buzzer deciding between 2 guys, and all 3 times Hubbard took the other guy right after. So you know that you're making the right kind of decisions. And maybe Roman Wilson was the play here, but I think because we grabbed Richardson, it does add in a best ball. I'm always looking to stack in best ball, and especially in these tournaments. I think that Mitchell gets the slight edge. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I do too. Roman Wilson is I think a solid dart throw. And let's face it, both of these guys are dart throws. Hubbard went with Elijah Mitchell, also another nice little dart throw in the Buffalo offense. But it's you come on. We came across, I think, with a pretty well-rounded team. There's a lot of different builds in this tournament, in this particular league. So I think some of them are really, really fun. A couple people, I think, probably made life a little bit tough on them. But, I think this is going to be a tough one to advance out of.
So I'll just read off the roster just to finish it off here. We were in the 9 spot, started with CMC, A-Chain, Chase Brown. Then we went yellow with Evans, Sutton, Waddle, Pearsall. Bo Nix as our QB1. Went back to San Fran with Ayuk and Purdy. Went Pat Fryermuth as our first tight end. Garendo and Dobbins for some RB depth and a little bit of that San Fran stack. Gesicki as our tight end 2. Anthony Richardson as our QB3 upside play. Keenan Allen, Terrence Ferguson, and Harold Fannin as a couple, depth / upside tight end plays, and then Ollie Gordon and Adonai Mitchell to finish off the draft. So like you said, Dan, these 125 buy-ins, it's hard to find other, we pointed out number 5, not to harp on 5. Let's just see what he did. Did he go yellow the whole way? Yeah, I figured he'd go yellow the whole way. So at the very least, he balanced it out by doing that. I don't know if that's going to be enough for him to fill in the receiver position as we talked about. Otherwise, you talked about Hubbard in the 10 spot. I mean, not to give away secrets or anything, but we did notice even with the main, he's going receiver early, which is a way that I really like going this year, just the way the boards play out. And then he kind of, smashes on those other positions. So he did something similar here and always has a solid build. Any other builds, Dan, stand out that are either different or that you like what they did?
Yeah, I think as you said, Hubbard stands out. I think that's a very well put together team. I like Team 2 a lot. I think that's another team that was well put together. Love
Yeah.
the snipe on JJ McCarthy in the 11th. I think if he'd have come back our way, I'd have probably been tempted to go with a third quarterback instead of going with Fryermuth Garendo on that turn. I'd have been
Love.
looking to get JJ McCarthy in there because I think, with the Minnesota offense, Kevin O'Connell is, as my friend Scott Pianowski says, I'd run into a burning building with him without a doubt. I mean, I think he's a great coach, and he's even with some truly, truly awful options at quarterback after Kirk Cousins went down. He was able to, as they say, make chicken salad out of chicken. What? So I think that McCarthy has a very, very solid floor, and I think the ceiling is the moon.
Agree 100%. And that's the reason why Rob and I on Sunday night in our main, we paired Bo Nix with JJ McCarthy, and we were so pumped to get him because we started the draft with Justin Jefferson. So it
Oh,
was,
nice.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think JJM, like I said, JJM, I think Penix, I think Jordan Love, just the range that they're going right now, I think offers so much nice upside at the quarterback position that it's making it easy to load up on the other positions and then hit quarterback, a bit later on and still have possible QB1 production on a week to week basis.
Right. And then, just how he handled the quarterback position there too, so he, it's a well put together team because you have Bowers, right away at the 102. That's a sick pick in my opinion. I think that's a great move. I think Bowers has just all kinds of upside still from what he did last year. And then he didn't go back and hit tight end until Dalton Schultz and then Tyler Conklin at the very end. So, he knew he had a great tight end one, and then he just majors basically on the wide receivers and running backs until he gets to McCarthy. Then it's bam, 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 three quarterbacks. And I think with those three quarterbacks, he's got a stack that can hang with anybody. And then he just kind of goes back and he sort of just picks off nice values the rest of the way.
Which are also stacks, Dan, which that's what I
Yes.
love. Like he got CJ Stroud, he stacked him with Schultz right after, and then he finishes off the draft knowing, I bet you he knew as soon as he took Herbert, I've got a backup plan, an ace in my back pocket. Is that the saying? I'll probably mess that up,
Yes.
but Tyler Conklin as a last pick to stack with Herbert. I mean, that's just money. I love that build. And he's got Quentin Johnston as well. So just a really well built team. And that's the thing, these 125 buy-ins, I mean, you look at these draft boards and you'll find some really sharp builds as you go through the draft board. Even I'm looking at the 4 spot there. I like that build just like structurally. Haven't even looked at the players, but just looking at the colors, the way they built that team. Not the biggest Kincaid Warren fan. I like the upside Kincaid offers this year, but then comes in with like a nice floor play at the end with Higbee. But just a nice balanced roster. The way he's got that, Barkley as his anchor, Hubbard comes in as his RB2, and then adds like 4 RB pieces later on, and then just pisses yellow throughout. So that's a nice kind of balanced out build as well for
Yep.
these best ball tournaments.
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right, Dan. So we teased the people enough. Let me see if I can get us on a screen properly here.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there
There
we
we
go.
go.
Look at that. Look at that production. There we go. So, yeah, I mean, we talk about a reveal, a big reveal today. And a lot of you that are watching today and that are going to watch this later, we're big supporters of the GOAT District. And I mean, we love everything about the GOAT District. The channel was growing. We had Theo on for a bit. We had Andrew, obviously. We really focus on high stakes fantasy football. And unfortunately, life kind of got in the way for me, and it just became too much with regards to the production side of things, or the back end side of things, and just everything going on with my, just having an 8-year-old daughter and a career and all that stuff. Fortunately for fantasy and for my fantasy career, my job is not a factor anymore. I got let go back in January, and been focusing on kind of other things. And fantasy football is one of those things that I've kind of dived right back into it. I know you obviously, we were on the player profiler. You joined them as well, and you've been crushing over there. Whether it's the Fantasy Empire show, your show with Bradley. And make sure you guys are checking those out on the Player Profiler. Dan is over there crushing it. They've got some serious content on the Player Profiler channel. And they're supporters of our channel as well. We use their website. I use their website religiously on a day-to-day basis. And Matt's a good friend of the channel and of the show. But the announcement today is, I reached out to Dan. I said, I'd love to bring back the Go District show. Not necessarily, we don't necessarily have to do the whole channel and all that. I've got the Draft Room Baller, and you guys are great in supporting that. But I think that the Goat District show did have something. I have people reaching out to me constantly. I know, Dan, you have the same thing, that are saying they just love the dynamic of that show. They, for some reason, love the dynamic between you and I on those shows. The quality of guests I think that we brought on was really a big factor. And just focusing on the high stakes fantasy world, I think there's still room for that from what I can see in fantasy land. And I know you agreed. So I'm excited to announce that, Dan, we're rebooting the GOAT District High Stakes
Yes.
Fantasy Football Show, and we're going to be bringing it back starting next week. Dan's still traveling the world and living the life as a retired man. I'm now, like, quote unquote, I guess, retired. I don't know if it's considered retired yet. Still working on that severance package with the lawyers, but no, man, I'm really excited to get back on. I know you and I did a show a few weeks ago, and a lot of people commented like, "Oh man, it was nice to see you guys back together again," and hopefully you guys keep it going. You see Nick, one of the Go Bills guys, with his comments. So yeah, that's the news, Dan. I'm super pumped to get this going with you again and get the Goat District back.
Yeah, I am as well. I mean, one of the things I've really missed over the past year is, podcasting with you on a regular basis, and being able to bring that back in and add it to the things that I've kind of picked up in the meantime, and have this be a big part of what I'm doing going forward is really really exciting to me because I did feel that chemistry, and I do feel that we can make a great show again, and getting those guests like we used to get, and just enjoying the high stakes world. And what I love about the show was it kind of gave us the freedom to go out and find really really strong guests who had something to add, things that we wanted to learn. I figure, what, if it's something that I think is interesting, then probably a lot of other people are going to think it's interesting too. So, we just had a really, really good response from our listeners as well. So I was disappointed when it ended, and I'm so happy that it's coming back.
Yeah, I'm super pumped, man. I think it'll be great. And you said it. Like I think the going out and getting guys that we see in the draft rooms when we're playing high stakes on especially the FFPC and even other platforms that we both play on. There's guys that are not necessarily out there on X and on YouTube and out there talking about strategy, and guys that they fade or target. So it was fun, like you said, when we wanted to know something or learn more about something, to go out there and find someone, a good resource that could help us and our audience. So that's the point. This channel is always here to help you guys become the best possible drafters, and we're just going to elevate that now with bringing the Goat District channel back. We're going to try to start next week. Dan's going away this week, and we'll iron out all those, the tech ghosts that are just don't seem to want to leave us alone. But no, I'm super pumped, and I think this will be great. And yeah, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel so that you can tune in and not miss an episode of the Goat District once it's back.
Yeah,
All right, Dan, this has
definitely.
been a blast. I don't know. I don't have anything else. What do you have coming up? Why don't you let the people know if you have anything coming up? I know you're away this week, but what they can look for, where they can find you in the next little bit.
Yeah, so right now I am working on in about an hour I'm going to be recording a Stack Hunters with Bradley, and I don't think that one's going to be live. I think we're probably going to release it in another day or two, but I wanted to squeeze one in before I run off again for a few more days, and we're even as we speak, we're working on getting the Fantasy Empire thing up and running again. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I like that format as well because I think, the nice thing is all three podcasts I'm doing, this one and Stack Hunters and Fantasy Empire, all kind of take different approaches to the game. And so, I think each one of them stands alone and, very nicely, and kind of rounds things out a little bit. And I'm also going to be putting out some more articles on Player Profiler. I'm working on one right now. They'll hopefully be out later in the week. So there you go.
Nice. Make sure you check that out, guys. Appreciate you guys joining us today. He's the overhyped sleeper, no E on the end on the X machine, my boy Dan Williamson. I'm JD at Draft Room Baller, and we'll check you all later.